Now you can start recording. Perfect. Welcome everyone to the panel discussion of the Swedish AI Society meeting. In this panel discussion, we want to discuss about the role of AI, especially now in the post-endemic world, especially maybe also focus on the work in the post-endemic world. And we have a very nice panel here, people from different areas and different stakeholders. You have, for example, Eriks Klotins, researcher at BTH, who really focuses on the engineering work, especially also for software engineering, and how we can do that efficiently. Anna Ståhlbröst, more from a human perspective. Staffan Lundberg as a representative from Region Norrbotten, so the governmental stakeholders here. Karolina Parding, she focuses on human work science, and Bengt Grahn, who had already at early times when no one thought about video conferencing, the ideas how that could be in the best and most secure way. So that panel will be here, and in a moment I will introduce each of them more specifically, and they will have a 2 minutes time slot where they can give their opening statement. And after that, we will focus on a discussion. And that discussion, it will be moderated by me, but I want to try to step back and see if the discussion can go on among the panelists. We want to focus really on what happens now in the world. How will the work habits change after COVID-19? Where are good possibilities specifically for AI methods to support us in our future work habits? And what are the greatest expectations towards AI to facilitate our work? These are some of the key questions, but we will see where the panel discussion brings us. And maybe after roughly half an hour, we will also open the floor to the audience, where then anyone can also ask questions. For the audience members, you have in the bottom of your screen a Q&A button, not the panelists. You can see the questions being asked. The audience can ask questions, and then I can take them up. But maybe we can also promote some of you to the speakers section if you have something you would like to share or discuss with us. We will see how it goes. So let us start. Eriks Klotins, he is a researcher in the Department of Software Engineering at BTH. And his research is continuous everything for efficient and fast software deliveries and data-driven approach to monitoring and optimizing software organizations. And now you can give maybe some opening statement.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a postdoctoral researcher at BTH. I did my PhD thesis on startups and figure out how startups can be fast and not to screw up how they build software. From there, I dived into how big organizations can be fast and stay big or grow at the same time. And turns out data-driven approaches are really good for monitoring and optimizing large software organizations. How I think work habits will change, I really hope that this trend of being able to work from home is going to continue, and offices will become a place where employees go to meet their colleagues, socialize, and not to do the real work. Consequently, the office will be kind of a perk that organizations can offer, probably in nice locations and so on. What are the good possibilities for AI? One thing that came up recently with my research is that in an office setting, it's very easy to spot a colleague in distress. It's much harder to do that when everyone's sitting in their own home offices. One huge use for machine learning AI approaches would be to monitor how people are doing when working from home and providing actionable insights of well, to spot signs of burnout, stress, and so on, basically to keep the organization healthy. Yeah, what are the greatest expectations towards AI? I think it's the pandemic showed that not everyone had to be in the office, and organizations can perform without face-to-face communication. The next step would be to realize that some tasks can be easily outsourced to machine learning, and we can do that with more confidence. And I really hope that humans will not be replaced, but rather augmented with AI machine learning tools.
Very good. Thank you very much. Very interesting perspective. We will not have a discussion yet. We will just listen to the different speakers. Next one is Anna Ståhlbröst. Anna is a colleague here in Luleå University of Technology, and she is focusing on information systems. And she is really more looking into the human role and the human perspective when we develop whatever methods. And she thinks that human needs should play a greater role in the development of innovative technology. Now, Anna, yes, you are with us. Perfect. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. When the pandemic started almost 1.5 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, we at Information Systems, we were quite used to having distance work and to work on a distance because we had a lot of education that was on a distance already. And that was the good side of how we could handle this situation when it came to handling students in our group. But what we didn't foresee was that we now needed to move totally on a distance. We had all the meetings on a distance. We didn't meet in the corridor. We didn't get energy from having coffee together, because that is one of the traditions that we have in my group, that we try to eat lunch together, we have coffees together and so forth, where we also discuss a lot of things that we can solve quite easily. So for us, the challenge hasn't been to really be on a distance when it comes to work and education and learning for the students, but it has been on how can we still be a group? How can humans be viewed in this group? How can we get energy from each other when we are working on a distance? And this has shown to be a great challenge for us. And we have also seen that, I mean, the number of meetings that we have now has really increased because we need to talk to each other. But it also creates more packed calendars for all of us. So it's more difficult to get these meetings. So there are many things that on how this has been, on how the pandemic has influenced us. And here we can, of course, see, I mean, if we look at it from an AI perspective, of course, for us, it would have been good to have AI to support the work tasks that we have as educators and learners. But we could also see, I mean, opportunities to have AI perhaps to also spot people who are not feeling well, and spot people and identify when people, yeah, perhaps need more help and support, because this is something that I think is very, very hard when it comes to the pandemic and how we can handle it. Yeah. So I think I will stop there.
Yeah, perfect. You perfectly kept the time. Yeah, thank you very much. We see here some synergies of the comments so far. And we directly move along to Staffan Lundberg. And Staffan is Digitaliseringscoordinator in the Department for the Regional Development in Region Norrbotten, and therefore has not the technology perspective here, but the knowledge about the technology. Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Marcus. Good afternoon. My name is Staffan Lundberg, and I work as Marcus said, as a digitalization coordinator at Region Norrbotten. 2020 has been an unpredictable and revolutionary year for us all, but no sector has felt the effects of COVID-19 as acute as the healthcare sector. Healthcare institutions worldwide had kept adapt quickly to the situation that changed and developed every day. All healthcare organizations have high expectations of AI. to increase efficiency and reduce errors by improving the accuracy of diagnosis using solutions such as medical imaging. An important part of the future development of care is also increased patients' ability to take greater responsibility for their own health. One way to achieve this is through smart self-diagnosis, which gives patients suggestions according to best practice, as well as screening and treatment based on historical patient data and best medical practice. In this picture, you can see examples of overall areas that are relevant for healthcare in terms of AI. Some of the areas are more of particular interests, and those are image recognition for historical and current radiology images, for example, screening of symptoms of early stage cancer, data-driven prioritization and guidance to relevant health units, combined journals with lifestyle, family background, risk factors, and more. However, there's still much to be done to implement large-scale AI solutions, both to develop a workforce that with the skills required to do so, and to take advantage of an artificial intelligence, what all artificial intelligence can offer. I think I'll stop there.
Perfect, thank you very much. And we move ahead directly with Karolina Parding. Karolina Parding is also at LTU, but she is not in the Department of System and Room Technique, but more looking on the human aspects, human sciences, Arbeidsvetenskap, human work sciences here at Luleå University. And yeah, the time is, floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcus, and thank you so much for inviting me today. This issue is very current, and we all experience this at the moment, so highly relevant to discuss. And I think for me, I come from sociology and human work science, and my research for the last 20 plus years deals with how do we organize work in such a way that it's actually good for the people who work. So that's my background. And I think it's important to sort of start off by thinking about why do we go to work at all, apart from getting a salary. And so from a sociological perspective, I would say that it's important to go to work because it gives us structure in life. It gives us a routine, and we might think that routines are boring, but routines are actually very important for human beings to feel well. So we need those routines and structures in the daily life, and it gives us sort of the possibility to rest. We know what's going to happen. There is predictability. And so if I get on my bike in the morning, I bike to work, I go into the same building every morning, get my coffee and so on, I have that structure. So that helps me to routinize the day. So in that sense, going to work is important. And secondly, all human beings are social beings as well. So we need each other, we need social interaction to feel well. And so going to work is also good in the sense that it gives us the possibility, an arena to meet other people, to be seen and to see others, which is absolutely essential for our well-being. So going to work is good for that part too. Moreover, work is also good in terms of giving meaning and purpose to our lives. And some people live for their work, others not, but it still gives us some sense of meaning, partly in carrying out the tasks that we are to carry out, and also in terms of that we feel that we contribute to other people and their lives in various ways. Yeah. And also, I think in terms of learning informally at work. Mm-hmm. Am I going over my 2 minutes now?
No worries. I think we are all keeping well.
Yeah. And so I think that just learning bit, because I think Anna touched on that before, that going to work, we meet each other in the corridors, and that's when we get the chance to learn and exchange ideas. So going to work is important for that reason too. And I'm going to stop there, and then we'll discuss the questions later. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So it's very interesting, the perspective from the human needs here, to take that also into account. And then we will directly move ahead with Bength. Bength is a founder of Compodium International, and that company was founded 24 years ago, before smartphones were common, and had at that time already the goal to have secure communication, also video conferencing, that we can really trust the communication, what's going on. And he recently said in an interview, COVID-19 has shown that it's easy to share knowledge and run our working lives with digital tools, and it's possible for many people to earn a living without going to a physical place of work, although, of course, not for everyone. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me in this panel. Well, being surrounded with technology has always been a true pleasure for me. As a video conferencing nerd, as you said, in the 90s, I was part of providing hardware-based video conferencing solutions for different businesses and organizations in Sweden. And we early on focused on the telemedicine part, where doctors could join together and together form diagnosis decisions based on video conferencing with high quality. So we've kind of been surrounded by the higher quality way of working in video, where the work process is depending on the video as a support. So we've been involved with this technology from very, very early on. So actually this video work culture, or as we say, the travel-free meeting culture, has been a natural way for us at Compodium, with headquarters in Luleå, but customers all over Sweden and elsewhere in the world. That has been a natural state of work from our side. And we have now, of course, grown as a company. We have for many years been about 10 people, but now we are 30, on our ways to 40. Of course, with a number of mega trends in the world. Of course, we have this corona situation, the pandemic with social distancing, fast forwarding the need of these tools. But we also have the overall efficiency, the globalization, of course, where we cannot travel to each and every meeting, but also the thing that will grab our mindset now when the pandemic fades away, and that is the sustainable and the caring of our planet, which will lead the way in a mental way, I think, for many years to come. And this is a very green business that we are conducting now as we speak. Well, the work habits are here to stay with support of IT and video conferencing. There's no issue about that. Even when we go with hybrid solutions, we might travel to some meetings, but even if we have a regional gatherings, those regional or local gatherings will be connected nationally and internationally. Well, we come back to AI, but I think that we must use AI tools to predict and to understand how we behave. Not just technical, of course, but our mindset. We have a different set of how we behave. We must take responsibility for the environment and for our lives.
I have to here also stop you. Sorry to keep the time frame.
Yes.
You will have later on again the chance to talk.
Perfect.
And of course, everything you say, all of you, is very important. And We have now seen different aspects here, but we understand it's not only Corona, it's many other aspects which influence us and showing that digital conferencing is an important aspect. However, on the other hand, there are the needs of the human to be socially connected and so on. Maybe I can switch back to Anna. You have mentioned it besides others, this need to meet often and to have a coffee together and so on. How will that now change in the post-endemic world? Will we go all back to the offices and have our coffees together, or did we find alternatives which will be sustainable also in the future?
I think it will be a combination of both. I don't think that we will go back and be 40 hours per week, especially not in the beginning. Then we'll see what will be the long-term effects, because I think we can't really see that yet. Now everyone is hurraying, oh, we don't want to go back to the office, and it has been working so fine working from home. But I'm not sure that that will be, I mean, the effects in the long run. I think in the long run, we are social human beings, I mean, a social species, and we want to be with other people. And I think, I mean, going back to the office, perhaps a few days per week, not perhaps 5 days per week, but being in the office a few days per week and having coffee and having these spontaneous meetings, because we need to get energy from each other. It's not only about the work tasks that we do. I mean, a work life is not only about the work tasks from my perspective. And I think there are so many other things that we need to do when we are in a workplace. That's we need to meet other people and getting to know other people as well.
Now I will not always direct, so if someone wants to say, just unmute yourself and try to organize.
I can just, I can continue. I very much recognize what you say, Anna, in terms of my perspective. And we have actually many students who've done their thesis work on what's happening in working life now. How do we introduce new employees when we don't meet? We don't get that sort of interaction happening on the informal basis. So I think it's a great interest, and I also agree with you, Anna, that we need to see each other. But also in December, if we look back at December, we had about 30% of the working force in Sweden working from home. So it's not everyone that works from home or can work from home for various reasons. And that's also something that we need to look at in terms of social justice, I think. But I'll leave that for now. But I think some groups, they will continue wanting to continue to work only from home. Others, they are just dying to get to back to work. They're not feeling well at all. And then we have those in-betweeners going, well, I can work from home, but I can also be in the office. So I think it's important to find ways of when we are at work to actually be there around the same time. Because if I go into uni now, it's no point because I'm the only one there. So going to work itself is not the point. It's to get that social interaction that you talk about, Anna. So I think that's very important to find a structure for a blended way of working from home and working in the office.
And I think following that, I think it will also be difficult or it will be challenging, because now we need to be able to handle these hybrid situations in another way. I mean, we will be digiphysical. Some people will be in the office, some people might be, I mean, working on a distance. So we need to handle, I mean, other type of work practices and interactions in a new way. Then perhaps Compodium will have good solutions for this.
Yeah, Bengt, maybe you want to directly react?
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, in this mixed reality that we are facing, of course, we must have ease to those technology tools, even in a working place, maybe in the kitchen, of course, in our own office area where we have our PC or Mac, but also in conference rooms. And there are, of course, a stream of different devices that could be made available with cameras, microphones, and sensors and things like that in small and larger meeting rooms. And all those will blend in. One of the challenges is, of course, that there are so many different tools. You can have Zoom, Google, Microsoft, the flow of different choices. unlike the history where you have a common standard where everybody use the same standard, we have a different tools, and that might pose challenges.
I would like to separate the social aspect of work from the productivity aspect of work, because like offices emerged as a consequence of factory work where everyone was standing by the production line and they had to be in their positions. Now the nature of work has changed. Very few of us actually going to stand in a production line. So we can allow ourselves not to go to work to do the work. The work is where we socialize. But it could be that it depends probably from person to person, that you can get the social aspect of life elsewhere, not just at work or at the office. But I think it's more likely that offices is going to become like a place for continuous retreat, where you go for some hours every week to meet colleagues, maybe to have some I don't want to call it fun time at work, but do things that is required for you as a human, but not really contribute to the work being done. So ensure well-being and good social cohesion of people.
I agree. It will be turned criminal to go to London to watch PowerPoint and drink coffee, for instance.
Yes,
but when you travel.
I would love to go to London for to see some of my colleagues in the office for a week, which would be almost like a vacation for me, but it's meeting colleagues as it's work. So it gives some benefit for both my work performance and it's time off the actual work duties that I do in my home office. So I think but yeah, for one PowerPoint, it's not going to happen.
No. And you can kind of make a list of what you can do in front of a screen and what's very, very hard to achieve, and then focus on those hard to achieve moments in the screen when you meet physically.
But here's an interesting thing I heard with one of the companies we are working, that it's not that it's the meetings that are exhaustive. It's the fact that in front of a computer, you don't have to move to jump from one meeting to another. So people keep inventing things to force themselves to stand up, stretch, go get a coffee, and then return to the same screen for another meeting. This happens naturally in an office setting where you go from one meeting room to another. In home, it's much harder. And there should be some tricks and tips how to get around that.
How will you handle this now, Erik? I heard you have to move in 2 minutes to the next meeting. Will you have a coffee in between, or will you stay in front of the screen?
I have my coffee. This time I'll have to jump right from one meeting to another. But so I have my 1-year-old at home that I go to see in between meetings, and it's an endless source of joy. So helps my brain to switch from one thing to another. And when I come back, I'm a bit recouped from the previous thing.
Okay, thanks for joining, and the others can continue. Staffan, I would like to see your perspective on the different aspects which have been mentioned. I mean, there were the different points mentioned, like, okay, the office will be the point of retreat to have our social interaction, but then we can also make a quite nice idea from Bength. We can make a list of the things we have to do in front of the screen and maybe the things where we really require office interaction. And then there are these works, and maybe 70% of these works which we cannot do at home and so on. So what is your perspective here? Sorry, you are muted. I asked you to unmute. Sorry.
Unmute.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, I think that yes, on one day at work, when you go home, you have approximately 10 to 12,000 steps. But if you're sitting by the computer, you have approximately 1,000 steps a day. That's I don't think that's sound. I don't think I don't like that perspective of work. But I think as if you're working part-time by the computer and part-time at work, I think it will benefit to all of us. Bengt was talking about the environment, going to London. It's a sort of criminal act to fly to London for watching a couple of PowerPoints. I agree fully. But from my perspective, we're talking about AI. I think from healthcare, I think it's a very interesting perspective. What if you're looking what's happening right now in the pandemic situation? Think about the typically cold day in January 2013, the peak of flu season. At this time of year, a decade ago, clinics and doctors' office would be overflowing with sick people waiting to be taken care of. 2030, patients move more easily through the system. So what has changed? Well, digital care has become a reality as a result of research and development during the early immense pressure on global healthcare systems, and several breakthroughs in technologies such as AI have been made. I think it will benefit to the healthcare a lot.
Thank you.
But I had to admit that AI is to be used. The AI is to be used in healthcare must be professional from day one, which means it can take time before AI is assigned important tasks. But since no one dies from a bad translation, AI can so far only be allowed to roam completely free in such environments as Facebook feeds and so on.
There are two different pointers I could take. One more towards Bengt regarding healthcare, and on the other, the failures of AI. Even translation mistakes or wrong prediction mistakes, where Anna knows probably much more about failures. So I'm not sure. Maybe Anna, you were the longest with the pause. Maybe you want to take on first.
I do not really want to talk about the failures of AI. I think we should be a little bit positive. But what I think that we should think of is, I mean, what would be, I mean, the possible consequences of having AI also in the future work environment that we will have. Because I don't know, I don't remember who said it. It was somewhere in the beginning of this session. I mean, to enhance human capabilities. I think that is one of the most important task for AI in the future. How can we enhance human capabilities and not putting humans, I mean, aside, but having humans in the focus, because we should still be the one in charge. We should still be the ones making the decisions, but to be enhanced by AI solutions. I think that is really important. And if it is in healthcare, that would be perfect. I mean, if we could have better diagnosis, or we could have, I mean, a better support when we do different surgeries or whatever it is. But I think, I mean, it should be humans that makes the final decisions. We don't want to rule ourselves out of the equation. I think that would be stupid. Not all equations. Some, yes, not all.
Yeah. Staffan, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you take an example, MRI scans, they're difficult to analyze due to the amount of information they contain. A normal MRI scan takes several hours to doctor to analyze. And if we could get that far that AI is to analyze the pictures, the doctors can do more other work, which benefits to the contact with the patient. But I think it's a lot of tasks that AI could be used for doing instead of occupying professionals' time.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think also when we have, oh yeah, sorry,
Karolina. Interesting, you chose another color for raising the hand. Was that possible?
Oh, yeah, that's just
I see that in your
screen
screen now. Okay, please.
Anyways, yeah, I actually have a doctoral student who's looking at if and how professional groups want AI to be used. Do they want it, and in what way, and what could be the possibilities and the problems? And I think especially if we look at professional groups, I mean, those with higher education, say a doctor, they need to be part of this development to say, what do I need to do and what can someone else do? So I think it's very, very important to have this process of developing the technology, that it goes hand in hand with what the professionals themselves see as useful, because otherwise it's going to be a waste of money. Because these professional groups, I mean, they still do have quite much power, and so if they are not part of the decision process, they're not going to use it, so it's not going to be useful. So I think that's a very important aspect, to always bring in the people who are going to use it, both the end users but also the professionals.
Mm-hmm. Good. We had now quite a nice focus on that track. I will stop the discussion in that direction. We have a question also from the audience, and we didn't hear Bengt for a while. Maybe you can take it, but maybe someone else afterwards as well. Elisabeth, she was a keynote speaker early on. She asks, what about the people who do not have the proper environment for productive work at home?
That's of course a challenge when you have a lot of kids and you might not have proper broadband and so forth. Technology needs to go along with the new work culture. And well, I do not have a clear answer on that. Normally you have a small area in a home where you can have a closet or so, and you have, most of us has broadband capabilities, well, at least in your phone, so you can get broadband connectivity. And even by using a phone you have always good connectivity, most of the time good connectivity, and the mobile phones are extremely capable. Of course, it's a small screen and so forth, so it's a panic tool for smart meetings, of course, but not for full-time work from home.
Yeah,
thanks a lot for your answer. Maybe if I could comment back. So I wrote this question at the time where several of you were, to me, in a very ideal way, talking about how good it is to work at home. And also I really enjoyed the comment about the 1-year-old boy at home that brings a lot of good emotions, and I totally support that. But sometimes either the technical or even the family being there, it's a real challenge, and many people are confronted with that by working at home. So of course there is all the advantage that if we stick for a second with the family, you are more present in the family, so quality life goes up in that sense. But I really think that we have to keep in mind the challenge on the work side when we start thinking about, okay, the office is only a place for meeting and not for working, because this might not work for everybody.
Good. Karolina, you take it, and afterwards Anna.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Elisabeth. I think you're actually very right about that. And that's also what I touched upon before, but didn't go into, the social justice issue. Because if we look at, say, a single mom, so she's female, she's a low income earner, perhaps not born in Sweden, so she has like the class, the gender, the ethnicity against her. And then we look at a male who's like 45 years old, high earner, doctor, say, he has a big house and she has a little shoebox to live in. I mean, of course, it gives you very, very different conditions to work from home. So I think it's absolutely essential that we look at that. But also in another way, one thing that could be positive, I think, because if we think about the center and the periphery, so to speak, I would say Luleå sometimes is the periphery if we compare to Stockholm. And so previously we would be expected to come down for meetings of like 1 or 2 hours, which is absolutely ridiculous, but we had to. And when I would ask, could I join by Zoom? What? That wasn't a possibility. So I think in that sense, perhaps now that opens up that there are less, how should I say, inequalities in terms of where we live, that we can actually meet better. But in terms of having the workplace at home, it's certainly a social justice issue. Anna, did you want to continue?
Yes, I did. And it comes back to both the question and also Bengt's answer, because I think we also need to remember that not everyone has connection. We have the digital divide, and the digital divide is both related to if you have access, but it's also related to if you have competence. Because not all people, I mean, even though we are on a very high level of digitalization in Sweden, so we can say that, okay, we have a high level of competence in Sweden, but we also know that there are a lot of people living perhaps in the sparsely populated areas of Sweden or other countries that do not have either the access to broadband or 4G or 5G, and they can't really foresee that they will get it either. So we also need to balance this. When we talk about working from home, this would be, I mean, I'm going back to what Karolina was saying, the social justice. I mean, who has the opportunity, who will have the possibility, and it will not be for all. And do we want to have that kind of society? So, and what would be the consequences on that? And I'm also thinking, I mean, I've been talking to a lot of our students now when they have been doing, I mean, their work on a distance. And I have never experienced so many students feeling so bad and having so much problems as they did this year. So this is, I mean, this is a huge difference than from all other years that I've been, I mean, examining students. And I think this is really, really serious.
It's not only that I feel bad, it's the quality goes down.
Yeah, and they can't even manage to finalize their courses. I mean, there are a lot of things. I mean, we have a lot of unhealthy issues that we need to handle after this, I think.
I think it's time. Staffan is also raising his hand. Please.
Yes, I agree. I think the broadband situation is problematic with just over 80% of the inhabitants in the cities that has broadband, but perhaps only 25% in the rural areas. And there are no economic incentives to expand broadband, and that's a sort of democratic problem.
We are unfortunately going towards the end of this panel discussion already. There is another question which I want to take, and then I will give every one of you a kind of closing statement possibility, and that will be limited to 1 minute only. But first, there's a question from Eriks Klotins. He has a question related our organizations and most colleagues did not yet adapt to the present working situations. I think it has been highlighted also by Anna just now. We're still learning in the hard way and have established some temporary solution. I see a risk related to equating work from home, meaning situation during COVID. In particular, that this will be used as a conservative argument without considering the state of the art and facts. Do you see such a risk, and how should we deal with it? So you can see also the question in the question and answering panel. It's a question from Eriks Klotins in the open questions. Anyone want to take this one?
I think this is a valid issue, because many companies now make withdrawals of square meters in the office. Normally maybe 100% or 95% of the workforce was at the office, but now they estimate that there are just 50% to come to the office or less, and the rest will work flexible from home or at customer premises. So there are no space at the office for everybody to join. So it is a really valid question indeed. Maybe there will be a new business for get-together areas, like ball games or other just social areas for all the leftover spaces in big office spaces in cities.
Anna?
Yeah, I agree with what you say, Bengt. I think that this is also something that will happen in the future, and we will use it as an argument also to decrease, I mean, the spaces that we have. But I think there is also another aspect when we say this with work from home. I think it also has to do with work-life balance. I mean, the balance between work and the balance between our private life. And many people think that it's beneficial. Okay, I can decide for myself when I want to go to the grocery store, and I can, I mean, do this kind of things, and I can do some laundry while I'm at home and so forth. But I think this will also have other type of consequences when we see that, okay, when is my spare time and when is my working time, and when can I really turn off my email or my mobile phone or whatever it is. I mean, I think that it will increase the demand that we always need to be, I mean, available and answering. So I think this is also a challenge that we will face in the future.
Good. Sorry, we will conclude now the panel also to keep the time. Next session will start at 2, and we want people to get a small benstrecker, leg stretcher. Now we go the other way around. So Bengt will start with a kind of closing statement, and please try to keep it in a minute.
Well, giving all the hard times for mankind, this could be a new start for a green, better world. But of course, with challenges. But I think the future has so much positivity. So I at least go with good expectations to work and contribute for a little better life for mankind in my work. And I'm very pleased to have this position to be able to bring that green promise to the world. Thanks.
Very nice. And Karolina?
Well, I think that what we will see in the future is further differentiation in working life. So we will see people who want to work more from home, those who want to be only in the office, and also those in-betweeners. And I think it's important to find a way that makes it works for everyone in a good way. And also that we think about these social justice issues, because like we said, technology is it's not there for everyone. And certain groups are better off and certain groups are worse off, depending on where you live and who you are. So I think those aspects are really, really important. And also what Anna touched upon, when a work takes place is super important. We just did a systematic literature review for the Swedish Agency of Work Environment Expertise, and it shows we need to be able to divide for the well-being in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Then Staffan?
Well, we're going to talk about the healthcare perspective. So I think that much of healthcare in the future will depend on AI and technology. Step by step, we will accept that technology will make it easier for healthcare to take care of our patients in the best way. And when that happens, it will not feel like science fiction. We will already be used to it then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. And Anna?
Yeah, I think that we will learn a lot from this last 1.5 years. I mean, we will learn from it from an environmental perspective, from a social perspective, and also from a technical perspective. But what I think is important when we start going back to what is the new normal, it's about reflecting on what has happened during this time. What are the pros, what are the cons, and how can we bring with us the good part and get rid of the bad parts? Because we talk a lot about, oh yes, the digital transformation. Now we have taken a huge leap forward with the digital transformation and so forth. But what are the good sides of it and what are the bad sides of it? and how can we make most benefit of it? So I think we really need to reflect and think.
Thank you very much. I have learned really a lot in this panel. One thing I'm doing right now, implement what Bengt told at the beginning, switch off the virtual background and have a bit of a real life. Unfortunately, my real life is at home and you just see the world behind me. However, that's the truth. But I learned a good homework for every team working together is now to consider what are, we had before this physical office only life, or mainly, not only, but mainly. Now we have this forced, sometimes too rapidly forced COVID virtual only life. What are the benefits? Make this list of what is good in the one and in the other scenarios. Of course, more the social interaction that goes to the physical world. But there are other things, some discussions you can do much nicer when you really can physically also interact with one another. So make a list of the pros and cons of these items. Take this time to very well plan and then think how the team can in the future work together in the hybrid, sometimes virtual, sometimes physical environment. Yeah, we still have 2-3 minutes. If someone like, I don't know, Elisabetta, you are still in the panel here. You had some questions earlier, and you have the luck or the difference to us that you are not based in Sweden, and you brought some components there as well. But I don't know, some reflection on your side. You're muted at the moment. Sorry, that's a lesson learned. We also have to take with us, always unmute.
Yeah, we learn this every time, and then we have to relearn it every time. I push on the wrong button. One very personal one, because at some point someone was mentioning what happens when a new colleague comes and the normal interaction is not there. And this is very personal for me, because I moved from one country to another and to a new job in the middle of the pandemic. And I don't have answers for that, but I do see that this is one of the problems where the social interaction is not spontaneous anymore. And you don't have these opportunities so natural in your work life to meet the colleagues in the corridor, to stay a bit longer in a meeting and have a chat, things like that. I of course, you know, I could really feel that particular difference. And as I said, I don't have a solution. I don't have an answer. Of course, I started attending the meetings, the normal meetings that everybody knew as lunch meetings, like real lunch meetings. and I knew them as Zoom meeting. And you get very little out of it in terms of making the social contacts. So this is something that the companies, but also the university, have to really keep in mind when welcoming new people, because they're going to be hardly integrated. Yeah,
these were some things we also had in our group. Person joining, and for half a year only online meetings, working very efficiently together. And finally, the first place we met, we're in the hospital, just by chance. And yeah, these are sad moments.
Yeah. It's also good that seeing each other in 3D for the first time, and probably with the mask on the face, you were able to recognize each other.
Yes.
That's already a challenge.
Thank you, everyone. I think this was a really, really nice discussion. And of course, I'd like to take it longer. But on the other hand, we should consider our health. Everyone make now 1,000 steps before in 5 minutes we will be back in the next session. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.